Hi, I'm Liam Dann, New Zealand Herald Business Editor at Large, and welcome to this episode of Money Talks. This is a podcast about money, but we're not going to tell you how to get rich, and we're not going to try and pick the next interest rate move. In this series, I'll be talking to interesting New Zealanders about how money has shaped their lives and what they've learned over the years. For today's podcast, I'm joined by singer, songwriter and Shihad frontman Jon Toogood. Kia ora, Jon. Welcome to Money Talks.
Kia ora, how are you?
Good, thanks. Excited to have you here and excited to hear you're about to go on tour again across the country. And first solo album, is that right?
It is the first solo album, and which is weird after 33 years in the industry. But it was circumstance, COVID lockdowns, lots of personal family carnage, lost my mum, lost my brother-in-law. So I needed some gentle music, so I picked up my acoustic guitar and started writing. That was my way through it.
Almost like therapy.
It was total therapy. And You know what, it's like out of pain, I think some of the best words I've ever done, because it's like I had to be brutally honest with myself,
Yeah.
And I'm really proud of this record. It's a beautiful thing. I made it to sort of hold me. It was supposed to be comforting to me, and it seems to, when I play this stuff live, there's always someone that comes up and says, "Well, that happened to me." We've
been privileged enough to NZB to hear a couple of the songs in advance, and it's pretty heavy stuff, like you're talking about your mother, but it doesn't come across that way musically. It's quite uplifting.
No, well, it is. It's supposed to be cathartic.
It's the way through, I guess.
There's a way through. It's a way through.
Yeah.
It's just life, I think, my mum would prefer to have it that way than losing her children, rather, that's the way of the world. If you stick around long enough, you're going to lose someone that you love, but no one sort of prepares you for that. I think in the West, we're taught to sort of live like we're always going to be here, and then we're so shocked and surprised when someone dies.
Other and away from life, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like, so I think, it's good to break the stigma of that. It's just part of life,
Yeah, well, look, let's jump into some of the Money Talks questions, and some of that will be family and growing up and things. If we went right back, what are your first memories of money in your life, and holding it in your hand, that kind of thing?
Yeah. I was basically brought up by two British immigrants, £10 poms, both given £10 to come and start a new life on the other side of the planet. Dad was a cabinet maker. Mum works a receptionist at State Insurance. We didn't have much growing up.
Yeah. So it was Wellington, right?
Wellington. All the people I grew up calling auntie and uncle were all just the people that were on the boats with my parents.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I was 7 and we went back to London before I met real blood relatives or anything like that. So it was, I suppose, an immigrant experience, British immigrant experience. I didn't realise that we weren't very rich until I sort of went to high school and started hanging out with people that had more money than me, and then went, okay, right. I remember some of the happiest memories from childhood was like my parents, to make it okay for the kids that we didn't have much, we'd sit around a gas heater with white bread on a big fork and toast the bread. It was like exciting, man. It was and it was exciting. It was like, yay, I get to cook my own food, but it was just one slice of bread. Didn't really have much growing up.
Did you get pocket money?
Once we started. Yeah, we did actually. We all had a sort of a chart. I had an older brother and sister, so someone was drying, someone was washing, someone was looking after the car and the lawns and stuff. And I used to do that for sure.
Yeah, one of the things that comes through with all the people I've talked to on this podcast is that New Zealand in those days, there wasn't such a huge disparity. If you didn't have much money in the family, the things that people were doing with money, there wasn't as much going on, was it? No,
not really. I never felt we were lacking anything. Like, it was very loving, supportive family life, and all my friends were. I went to Island Bay Primary School in Wellington, and everyone was from everywhere. And went to a public school. It was great. I loved it. I loved my childhood in Island Bay. It was fantastic.
Yeah. At school, was music a thing right off the bat?
Music was a thing even back in the family home. Like, my two earliest memories is one was the lolly jar, because I really liked sugar, my parents' lolly jar, and then the other one was my parents' all-in-one record player, and had a speaker built into it. And I used to just watch the Beatles' Hard Day's Night go around and be fascinated by this alchemy of putting a needle down on a bit of plastic that was going around, and then the sound would
magic.
be generated.
Yeah.
And I was like, how it was alchemy, and I wanted to know, how do you do that? What is the process that they got there?
The Beatles would have been huge, I guess,
Beatles
of British
was
parents.
huge.
But what were the other bands that sort of influenced, those early influences?
Okay, so early on, I had an older brother and sister, I think I mentioned. I was very lucky to have that, because they'd go out and make all those fashion mistakes, and some of those were great ideas, So I think with my brother, he introduced me to things like the Jam. I really liked, That's Entertainment and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And my sister was more punk, so Stiff Little Fingers, Sex Pistols, Public Image Limited. She told me when I was getting older, she said, just before I hit high school, she said, if you ever get into heavy metal, I'll disown you. So I think, because I've got a rebellious spirit, I purposely went out and found a heavy metal record and got into it. So, but growing up, I think my first album that I bought was Bob Marley Legend, which I still listen to this day. It's a fantastic record. A Human League Dare, I think, was my second record. So it's pretty eclectic.
Yeah, I mean, there's a classic Kiwi sort of vibe around music at that age, isn't there? I mean, you discover Led Zeppelin and all that sort of stuff.
Man. I mean,
I know the 80s, it all got a bit glam for a while, and you had to sort of look back a bit to find the real metal, I suppose.
Yeah, I think Led Zeppelin was one of those ones that, were they metal? It was hard rock, but it was one of those bands that if you got it, you could go for a deep dive into that band and all the different phases that they had. My favourite is Houses of the Holy, because it's got it's just got every single song on that record's great. Dancing Days, Crunge, No Quarter.
Yeah, No Quarter is one of my favourite. Yeah, anyway, I have to catch myself here and not go too deep into discussing Led Zeppelin. But okay, so you're at school. What about career? Was music a career option early on? Or
originally I was the captain of the Wellington Primary School's cricket team. So I was being sort of, conditioned to think that maybe I had a career in cricket.
I read that you made representative level.
Yeah, I was the captain of that team. Yeah. And in my team was Mark Ellis, Charlie's Juice guy, and an All Black and a Warrior. Also, Danny Haimona was my opening bowler, and my best mate, and he ended up being another musician called Damn Native, a hip hop guy. But we used to play against, Chris Cairns was the captain of the Canterbury Boys.
Yeah, Fleming would have been around.
Yeah, he never got me out. I was scared shitless of him though, because he was like one of those guys at school that was shaving before everybody else. It was like, there's no way that guy's 13, but he was apparently. He was frightening.
Were you a bowler or a batsman?
I was an all-rounder, so I was a good swing bowler and number 3 batsman. But around that time, I met Tom Larkin, the drummer of Shihad, and he said, I hear you play guitar, because I had guitar lessons from 7 till 11, and he said, join my band, I want to, and gave me a copy of AC/DC's Highway to Hell and Metallica's Ride the Lightning, and said, I want a band like this. And I was like, I've never touched an electric guitar, I haven't even been in a room with an electric guitar. And he said, it's easy. And so he took me into Wellington. We went to Wellington High School, and we'd sort of basically, once we discovered the music room with all the band gear, that's where we spent our whole high school. Yeah. And then my parents were really disappointed at first, because they really wanted me to be a black cap. But then once they saw me winning a music award on telly next to Coronation Street, they were stoked, and they became the biggest supporters of Shihad.
But there's a few years in between, right? So it must have been, I guess as parents, they're probably just worried about the stability of a career in music. It can be a tough road.
It is most definitely a tough road. It's not for the sleight of heart. You've got to really believe in yourself, and you've got to really want to do it.
Well, I guess it's that making that leap between going, this is great fun, I'm in a band, and it's a something we're doing for a laugh, and actually going, well, we're going to try and take this as far as it can go.
Yeah, well, so luckily I met like-minded, ambitious young men at a high school that were willing to take that journey with me, and were just as driven, if not more so, than I was. So I was surrounded by a good team, and you need that because it's a team effort. And we always set our sights much further afield than just New Zealand. We were like, how does Metallica sound like it does? How does Led Zeppelin sound like they do. We were never thinking about just the borders of New Zealand. We were thinking about how do we sound like an international band?
Sound big, yeah.
How do we sound that huge sound that we love? And so we just went on a journey to try and find the answers to those questions, And basically it comes down to putting in the hours and rehearsing and playing shows and never taking no for an answer, being extremely career focused.
Yeah. But when you say career, I mean, that's absolutely focused on the music, right? But did you think about the business side much in those days, or how you could make a living?
At first, we knew that it was going to be tough. We knew that we were going to be earning practically less than the dole. But that day that we did actually give our jobs away and went, okay, we've got a record deal in Germany. It might not be the best thing, but it's still a record deal. We were like, we are prepared to eat rubbish and do what we need to do to get to that point. And then it was like 10 years of hard grind, just making enough money to feed ourselves and travel to America, then travel to Europe, then to Australia, and just going, never taking no for an answer. And then finally, publishing companies going, we want what you've got. Here's a big advance.
Because it was still fairly traditional, in those days it was almost the way it had been for 20 or 30 years in terms of how bands work. Do you look at it now? I mean, how does it compare now? But also when you look at young bands, the way that they're looking at career now, it's very different, right?
It's really, it's different on so many levels. It's different on the fact, even right down to the fundamentals of like having to learn how to play your instrument. Nowadays, you've got the resource of YouTube, which has got all the best guitarists in the world going, exactly this is how you play this. We didn't have that resource. We had to hunt down the local guitar tutor who might not be into the music that you like, but that's the only person you could find. So there's a different skill set going on. If someone's keen and passionate, they can become very, very good, really young, and you need to be good young to compete, basically. And so there's that. Then there's also direct lines of communication between you and your audience, which we didn't have, like the internet, social media, blah, blah, blah. I'm not very good with that because I'm not part of that generation. I'm still of the generation that I liked my rock stars to be mysterious, like Prince. I didn't want to know what Prince was eating for dinner. I just wanted to be him, like, because he was, he slept with Apollonia, which was really cool, and I liked that. I liked that mystery, and I'm quite a private person, so I'm still, I think, a little bit like that, which is probably business-wise to my detriment.
I mean, it feels like young kids, they've really got to hustle now. They sell their own T-shirts. And
they've got to brand themselves, basically. They've got to think of themselves as a brand rather than as a person. And that's, people, there's some kids who are so good at it, but that's just the world that we're in. And all power to them, but I actually really love going home after playing a show and being private. I actually really appreciate that,
Was there a point when the success started to come where you thought, gee, there is some money here, I need to think about this in a sort of a practical way, all that personal finance stuff, investing in a house?
Absolutely, and I did do that, first big publishing payout we got, that was used as a deposit on a house in Brooklyn and Wellington in my first marriage, and that got us onto the property ladder, and it was like after years of renting or sleeping on couches, pretty much, and that was from a publishing deal, and I mean, I've got to say, it wasn't until I actually got out of that first marriage and had to reassess my whole life that I actually worked out where my income streams were, where I made money, I didn't even know what I was earning per year.
It must have been, and you hear this in a lot of bands, it just must be like a whirlwind for a while when it's all on. Well, because you're not late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay, so I was the guy in the band that was the creative, right? I was the guy that was writing the words, writing the songs, and behaving like a performing demon on stage, making sure that everyone walked out of that venue going, that was the best rock and roll band I've seen. That was the eyes on the prize. I wasn't even looking at my bank account. I was just going, as long as people want to see us, I'm happy. And it wasn't until I grew up and went, right, I've actually got to pay. I've got to pay for things here. And then actually having my own children.
Having kids really focuses you, right?
Really focuses you. It's like, okay, cool. Luckily, by that point, I'd made enough of I had enough of a profile to be able to actually say yes to things that I found I was passionate about. You know, and I'd never got into a situation, I think, where I was going, well, I'm going to do this even though I find it icky, because I just need to pay the rent. You know, like I've always luckily gone, what? Okay, cool. Silo Theatre want me to do a Brel theatre show. Keen. Hodaki want me to do a radio show where I just play what I was brought up on. Great. I'm playing a solo show where I'm playing in front of 150 people, but it's really intimate, but it's also a real thrill to me to do. Great. Next day I'm playing Shihad with 10,000 people in front of me. I'm very fortunate to have this life and actually be paid to do it, because I'm pretty much doing all these things that I do for free, in a weird way. You know,
Well, it's that, you know, it's making that passion your job, I guess. I mean, how much? I mean, I guess, you know, it's a question I ask, so I'll ask it. But and it's probably pretty obvious with an artist, or you know. But how much is money ever a driver of your output and what you do?
No, it's not a driver. I think it's about learning how to value yourself. It's really important to value yourself properly. You know, like I think I used to be such a people pleaser when I was younger. It was like, oh, I'd undervalue myself.
Yeah.
You know, someone wanted me to do something, I'd be like, oh, I don't want to offend them.
Yeah.
So I'll shortchange myself. Then it was like I met my wife. She was like, what the hell, man? You're Johnny fucking Toogood. You should be asking for this. Yeah. And it was like, okay, I'll ask for it. And then it was like, yeah, sweet as. Okay, cool, let's go.
Yeah.
You know, and then I realized, okay, right, you've got to value what you do. And then when you turn up to do it, you nail the shit out of it. You know, I never do anything half-assed, whether it's doing voiceovers for ads, whether it's doing anything. Yeah. I'm always 100% on and giving it my best shot. Well,
that's it. I mean, other jobs, you know, I guess you can structure a career once you're at a certain level where you can do jobs that are commercial and you just do it because it's going to fund doing something that's completely non-commercial.
Sure. But even, say, doing voiceovers, I'm only doing voiceovers for ads for things that I actually have.
I was trying to think of what I've what I've heard you and I can't remember.
But, you know, like, I mean, honestly, like I am in a very privileged position of being able to say no to things that I don't feel and saying yes to things that I do, you know? And I know that that's not the case for everybody. And I'm thankful every day I wake up, you know.
And also, I guess, I mean, I guess I need to ask: is Shihad still a loose concept? I mean, we could see Shihad come back and do another tour.
Absolutely. And it's like we've all got our own things. So Tom
is not a Gallagher brothers scenario.
No, not at all. Tom Larkin, the drummer, you know, founding member with me, he manages other bands. He was always passionate about the business.
Yeah,
that was something that I was so glad I had him around me, because he actually thrilled at the business, whereas I found it a little bit, as a sensitive sort of creative, I needed to be protected from it a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm a bit better now. I can interface with the business world a lot easier than when I was younger.
Yeah.
But having that, you know, a guy that was passionate about that side of things around me, so it was a godsend, you know. And so he's made a living out of that. But we all, you know, I think Phil is the guitarist. He tour manages bands because he loves touring and he knows all about that stuff. So they've all
found a way to stay within the industry.
Absolutely. But when we come together, we still nail it. You know, we nail it, and we know that we've got a name of being a great live act, and so we can never, you know, disappoint people and not disappoint ourselves, you know, like, so we always take it very seriously when we're together.
Yeah, I mean, I'm jumping around a bit here, but one of the things I wanted to ask is, you know, you were very metal at the start, right? And then, of course, it evolves and it changes, and it's sort of, some ways that's a bit of an analogy for how life can be, especially if you're from a sort of working class background. I'm sort of similar sort of boat. Was there a point at which you remember just going, I'm going to not be constrained by that, you know, like there's sometimes it can be a little bit suffocating.
Without a doubt. I mean, I think Shihad wouldn't be a thing if we just made the same record over and over again.
I mean, there's a lot of people who'd like to just hear you make Killjoy.
Sure, absolutely. And you know what? It's like if we stuck to that, we would have got bored. Our shows would have been law of diminishing returns. Yeah, we wouldn't have been passionate about it. We needed to push ourselves. I think artists And I should imagine people who are creative in the business industry need to push themselves and step out of their comfort zone so that they can even get bigger than what they were. It's so important to keep pushing yourself. Otherwise, you become complacent and you start phoning it in. As soon as you start phoning in art or rock and roll, people can feel it. You can feel it. I've got to feel it, so how do I feel it? By taking a path that I've never walked down before. And, Fish album, yes, we went from selling 2 nights out at the, Auckland Town Hall down to half of Auckland Town Hall in the space of a release of that album. But now, 20 years later, the first song on that record is a New Zealand rock standard, Home Again.
I mean, it's kind of defines how we remember how to deal with daylight saving.
Absolutely. But at the time, our fans were really unhappy with us doing that.
Yeah, it was too poppy for them.
It was too pop.
Yeah.
But we needed to do that because that's what we were feeling in our hearts. Yeah. That's the song we wanted to write.
In hindsight, when you look back, it was still pretty solid rock,
wasn't it?
Pretty rock
and roll. Yeah, but at the time, after coming from Killjoy, people were like, what is this pop?
Yeah,
I'm not into this, and it took us, 2 years to get back onto, doing the numbers that we were doing before, and then it broadened, and it changed. All of a sudden, it went from a sort of 90 sort of 10 split between mostly boys and girls to 50-50 almost.
Yeah,
because we changed, and all of a sudden the boys started behaving better, less fights at the gigs. Better to look at.
Yeah.
And it was great. I loved it,
Do you remember, around that time of the Shihad and the Fish album, it blew up, right? And suddenly you're dealing with fame in a pretty small place. Did it change things for you? And it's weird, because fame without wealth often means that you're sort of...
I think people sort of take for, they forget, yes, okay, Johnny's a rock star, but he's a New Zealand rock star. It's a scale thing,
people are still going to yell out, "Hey, how's it going?" And
I earn okay money, and I am not complaining at all. But it's not like being golden or platinum in New Zealand. It's not like selling platinum in America or Germany or stuff like that. So there's got to be some reality tethered to that. But my job satisfaction is extremely high, and we're doing great. So I've got no complaints at all. I find the fame thing a little bit weird still, but at the same time, if someone comes up to me and says, "Hey man, I saw you when I was at uni in Hamilton, and that show just blew my mind," it was like, well, I always give people the time of day, because that's great. What a great thing! What a great thing that happens.
It's a weird position you're in. I get it a little bit with older white men who read business columns.
Sure.
But for you, this is why I'm nervous interviewing you, where I wouldn't be with a Reserve Bank governor or something, is because it feels like I feel like I sort of know you because your voice.
Sure.
And you said some of those lines, it's not the clock's back for winter, it's the day of tiny triumphs that sticks in my head.
I like that line. I'm pretty proud of that one. I don't know. I'm always. The thing is, for me, I always go at it like, I just happen to have a job that I love, but all it is just a job at the end of the day, and it's a really great job that I love, and I'm very fortunate. But it's no more important than the guy that drives the bus that gets me to the gig. It's just the same. I was brought up by working class parents, so I always bat for the underdog, and so and also because we were the same 4 guys from when we were 17 years at school, we've seen each other's worst haircuts, we've seen each other's worst clothes, fashion choices. So we can't fool each other about we're bigger than what we actually are. We are who we are. Everyone's egos are kept in check. And also we're Kiwis, so our egos are naturally kept in check because we're Kiwis. It's not cool to be a rock star. It's not cool to flaunt things.
Must be quite a balancing act.
You just got to be humble, man. And I'm good with that. It's like I say, it's a cool job, but it's no more important than any other job.
Sure. I better crack into some of our quickfire money talks questions. So one of them is, what's the poorest you've ever been?
I'd say borrowing money off the Support Act when we were in New York on a bus and going, I need to borrow $2 just so that I can eat
Wow,
a piece of pizza, and borrowing money off the support.
So what era would that have been?
That would have been Killjoy.
Yeah. So really just getting up there and
just like playing in front of nobody in southern states of America, and then in New York, but just living it, just having to do it.
Yeah. And then when you finally got some money together, what would be one of the most indulgent purchases you've ever made, or where do you like to? Where would you splash out if you've got some money?
I think buying a house in Tamaki Makaurau nowadays is pretty indulgent.
Yeah.
And we've managed to do that. So I'm really proud. We saved hard for 15 years to do that, and I'm really proud of me and my wife, because it's not easy. And I absolutely feel for anybody who's doing it tough, and because we're not living in very easy times financially.
Sure. Do you buy lotto tickets, and do you still imagine winning lotto? And if so, how much do you imagine winning?
Well, part of my story is that I converted to Islam, so we can't gamble, and so I sort of, whenever we need to, me and the family need some money, we sort of have a joke about, when we win the halal lotto, we'll be rolling in it. But it's like we don't gamble. I never gambled though. I mean, I think apart from if we ever went to Vegas, I'd give myself $250 to sit at a blackjack table, and I wouldn't. I set a rule. If I lose that money, I'm out, I never lost. I always walked out up, But, I don't know. I think it was from being a struggling artist for so many years that whatever money I had on tight to.
Yeah.
But then meeting my wife, who is the daughter of a UN diplomat, he's actually head economist. He was a head economist at the Islamic Bank of Saudi Arabia when I first met her.
So she knows how to organise some money.
No, she doesn't.
Oh, wow.
No, not at all. Because he did pretty much everything for everybody.
Oh, right.
And so we've had to learn together, and you know what? I think we're doing a great job considering neither of us sort of were from that world, even though her dad was. But he's now the advisor to the Kuwaiti Agricultural Ministry, trying to divest from fossil fuels at the moment.
Wow.
So that's his job. That's a big job. So it's pretty interesting marrying into that family. Because I think I was a bit of an outside context problem when my wife turned up with a rock and roll star from New Zealand.
I guess it's quite a shift. Does the Islamic thing, does it change the way you look at money?
Absolutely, because we think of money as everything's a gift from Allah, everything's a gift from the universe, if you want to put it that way. And when you die, you're going to be asked, what did you do? What did you do with what I gave you? So the idea is to pass that money on. When I first met Dana, I was a staunch humanist atheist that was like, I was like, talked a good game about being generous, being kind, but because I was a struggling artist, I held on tightly to any money I ever got because I didn't have any faith that I would ever get paid again, because I didn't know if I would. But she would literally give her last $10 to the person on the street who needed it because it wasn't hers anyway, and she was going to be asked that question when she dies.
Wow.
So and you know what? Without fail, by the end of the day, she was getting comp dinner at some restaurant, or someone would give her some money. It just comes back, and it's just going with the flow of the universe, Yeah. That's my attitude towards money. It's like you give to people that are in need, and also if you look at people rather than in the West, where we're taught to look at people who have more than us and always be on the search for better car, better house, better neighbourhood, better school, you're always going to be miserable. If you look the other way and go, who needs something here? Who is less than me? And you help them out, you sleep like a baby, because they're manifestations of us anyway. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's brilliant, and a really interesting transformation for a kid from Ireland.
For sure.
Bit of a lighter question, I guess, but because it's money talks, I always like, especially anyone musical. Do you have a favourite song about money? A song with a money lyric? It's probably
money for nothing, mate.
Yeah. I always think that's great until he starts singing. The riff's amazing.
The riffs are awesome. No, I actually had to do it in the Come Together Dire Straits thing, and I was like, do you really have to give me that gig and that song? Because I
like Dire Straits, but
my favourite's Tunnel of Love and Romeo and Juliet, but then getting inside it and actually performing it live, it's a pretty rockin' tune, man. There's a live version from Nebworth with Eric Clapton playing the other guitar, and it's pretty kick-ass.
Yeah, it's an
man.
amazing riff. And actually kind of interesting lyrics.
Yeah.
Cool. We better wrap this up shortly because I know you've got to get downstairs and play some songs. But a big one we ask is if you were Prime Minister for the day, if we could magically make you Prime Minister for the day, is there something you would most like to change in New Zealand to try and I guess deal with social inequality or deal with some of the big issues out there? It's a huge question, I know.
It's a big question. I think our society undervalues teachers. It undervalues people in the service industry. It undervalues people who work in hospitals and health. I would try and even up what they get paid. I think we, on a whole, we tend to reward ruthlessness rather than charity and generosity. So I would turn that on its head. What are the policies that make that happen? Who knows? I've had conversations where people go, "Oh, you should be into politics." It's like, nah, man. What's great about being an artist is you get to sit outside and have and you're not, I can say things without having to go, is this going to piss off someone from my team? And I do understand you need to be a team when you're working in party politics, but I think I like the freedom afforded me by being an artist, because art plays a role in culture and society, because we get to sort of sit outside and go, actually, that's not fair and that's not right, so, but yet we don't have to have the argument with, so it's an interesting thing. What would I change? I think valuing our teachers and our people in health. I think that would be good first up. Making sure that we honour the Treaty of Waitangi as well, because it is a joint thing. It's not just for Māori, it's for Pākehā as well. I think that would be great, and being really honest about our history. Yeah, that would be very important to me. Yeah, sure. No, hey, look, that's brilliant, John. I know we're going to let you go. Awesome. Can I just firstly, lastly, good luck with this tour and the album, right? So, Last of the Lonely Gods. Yeah. Early October 11th. October 11th. Is that when the album comes out? That's when the album comes out, and that's when I start touring. When you hit the road. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, well, it's best record I think I've made for ages, so it's good. Well, that is great. Thanks for being here, and good luck with it all. Cheers, John. Thank you. Thanks for listening to this episode of Money Talks. If you want to get in touch, drop me a line at liam.dan@nzme.co.nz. And you can read more from me at nzherald.co.nz. Thanks to my producer, Ethan Sills, and sound engineer, Leanne McDonald. Follow Money Talks on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts, with new episodes available every Thursday.